You know, if you look around the internet for lists of the best Godzilla movies, you'll soon realize that the fans can't agree on the quality of the movies. The original is certainly good, but is it the best one? Is Hedorah the worst Godzilla movie or an underrated masterpiece? Is the character better as a villain, a hero, or an anti-hero? Does the Matthew Broderick flick hold on its own? All of these are completely valid questions, but if there is one thing everyone seems to agree on is that the Netflix anime trilogy is trash and we should never mention it again. Oh, and that Mothra vs. Godzilla is really good. This movie is a slight change of direction for the franchise. Unlike the overly comical and humorous previous one, Mothra vs. Godzilla is more serious, with jokes serving more as comic relief than being the whole point of the movie. Not that this is bad in any way, of course. Like I said, this movie is a fan favorite, and that is probably because of the tone. It's neither too serious to be depressing nor too comical to be annoying. Not to mention that it's a damn fine adventure flick that carries on all the qualities of the previous one while also being a different beast altogether. But anyway, no one is here to see me praising a 50-plus-year-old movie with people in rubber suits, so let me start this. After a typhoon devastates and floods a coastal area, a reporter and his photographer you know what? I don't think they ever mentioned those two names in the movie, so I'll just call them Reporter Guy and Photographer Girl. Reporter Guy is played by Akira Takarada, by the way, aka Ogara from the first movie. Yes, they use the same actors for different roles in different movies, and that would not be his last role in a Godzilla movie either. They find a mysterious glowing object among the debris of the typhoon. But this is not the weirdest thing that appears on the beach that day, because soon after a giant egg comes ashore. Local entrepreneur Kumayama wastes no time in buying the egg from the local, intending to turn it into a tourist attraction. Of course, that reporter guy and photographer girl are not happy with it, but can't do crap about that. They are both seen sobbing about the whole situation in a hotel room along Professor Miura later that night.
あなたから関係当局へ掛け合ったらどうですか。僕たちも手伝います。
ありがとう。しかしまあダメだね。
なぜです。
こういう歌知ってるかい。すぐで半年、よかろで2年、審議審議で5、6年。お役所仕事じゃそれだけかかるという誰かの歌さ。
You see? They're complaining about the slowness of Japanese bureaucracy again.
Coincidence? I think not!
Someone who made these movies must really think the government is a bunch of sluggish no-goods. While checking out, they discover Kumayama checking in and decide to follow him. Turns out he had a meeting with his boss, Dr. Torahada. They discussed their usual shady business until being interrupted by two fairies who beg them to give them back their egg. Of course, that the two are not very receptive to this idea and just end up scaring the fairies away. Outside, reporter guy meets professor scientist and photographer girl to tell them who is Kumayama's boss, but the trio is approached by the two fairies who beg them to help to bring the egg back to where it came from. Turns out this is Mothra's egg, and when they hatch, the creature born from it may cause a lot of destruction and headache. Now you may be asking, who the hell is Mothra, and why should I care? Mothra is a giant moth who first appeared in the 1961 movie of the same name, also directed by Ishiro Honda and released by Toho. The movie was a big success, so nothing more logical than to assemble both of the studio's most popular monsters for one mega flick. That's right, back in the 1960s, Toho was already doing a cinematic universe, complete with plot elements that are absolute beryllium ballooning unless you've watched the other movies. And people don't believe me when I say that these movies were way ahead of the curve. The trio tried to convince the two bad guys to return the egg to the fairies. They say no. Once again, the characters are feeling sad for getting the proverbial door slammed on their faces again. But the fairies have no time for all this self-pity and decide to bail for the protagonist's disappointment. Some time passes, and reporter guy and photographer girl are called by Professor Miura in his laboratory to take a look at the strange object they found that other day. It's radioactive, very radioactive. They return to the place hit by the typhoon in an attempt to find out the source of the radiation. It's Godzilla. Don't ask me how he got there. He just did. It's okay, dude. She's not going anywhere. Godzilla starts crossing an urban area, causing his usual mayhem. Goji, is everything alright? You seem a little dizzy. You were not hanging up with Kong, were you? Everyone and their grandma starts getting ready for the shitstorm that happens every time Godzilla shows up. Except this time, someone at the protagonist's newspaper has the actually quite bright idea of summoning Mothra to fight Goji. So the trio goes to the monster's home at Infant Island. Upon arrival, they take a minute to contemplate on the devastating effects of H-bomb tests. Hey, look at this guy! I had a turtle toy that moves exactly the same way. The natives on the island are not very receptive, big surprise, blaming people like their visitors on the devastation of their land. But after photographer girl gives a speech on the inherent good nature of mankind and the need to help one another, they are convinced. But the fairies warn them that Mothra is very weak and old, and may not survive its battle against Godzilla. Fun fact, the fairies were portrayed by Japanese duo The Peanuts. They were a couple of twin sisters who sing together. Back to the pun, Godzilla is now heading towards the egg.
Yeah, じゃないよ.
Not even the characters know each other's names, so give me a break. Kumeyama goes to Torahara's hotel room and asks for his part of the deal because he's full of his boss's crap. Things get violent very quickly and, geez, that's a lot of blood. Godzilla starts approaching the hotel, and with no time to lose, Torahara just shoots Kumeyama and flees with the money. Mothra appears just in time to save her egg. She flaps her wings, trying to bring Godzilla down, but, ma'am, your egg is rolling away. The butterfly drags Goji away from the egg, so that she can use her magic yellow dust to weaken him. Dude, stop grabbing her. Jeez. Mothra is fast and strong, but also old and fragile. The fight ends with her having to retreat and dying next to her egg. Despite all her efforts, Godzilla is still alive, to everyone's disappointment. But all is not lost yet, as the fairies can still try to awaken the egg. Meanwhile, the army assembles an electric fence, except this time it's a bunch of Tesla coils that shoot lightning at Godzilla. It's actually working surprisingly well.
よし、勝てるぞ。家は上げ。ダメです。これ以上上げられません。上げるんだ。
Oh, come on, it was working, guys! What the hell? Mothra's egg finally hatches, giving birth to...
One ugly motherfucker.
Godzilla heads into an island with children trapped in it, and the babies go after him because they are protector of the innocent or whatever. But since there's still 10 minutes of film left and they have nothing better to do, the protagonist gets on a boat to try to save the children. Dude, for the last time, let her go! The rest of the movie is pretty much just the larva shooting silk at Godzilla until he is completely immobilized and rolls down a cliff into the ocean. Again. It's actually a little more engaging than I described it, but you can't put this kind of thing into paper, so you have to take my word for it. Once Godzilla has been dealt with, the babies swim back to their home, while our true heroes and him wave from a distance.
このまま返しちゃうのか。そうだよ。でもお礼ぐらい言わなくちゃ。いや、あの人たちへのお礼は我々がいい社会を作ることだ。
Sure, man, whatever you say. This movie is great. The pacing, special effects, script, and even the direction is an improvement over the last 3 movies. Add to it the fact that this movie is not as comedic as the previous one and has a more focused plot than the following 2, and the result is what most consider a great gateway into the franchise. I know it was my gateway. Having already watched the original one and King Kong vs Godzilla, I was looking for a Godzilla movies to start watching them, and chose this one after realizing that people actually seem to like it a lot, and it was a terrific choice, not only because of all the reasons I mentioned before, but also because it's very early in the franchise, meaning I would have no problem following up from there. So if you're looking for a good entry point into Godzilla, this is it. You can thank me later. Next week, King Ghidorah.
Army or not, you must realize you are doomed.
Oh, I don't think so.